Brian Hansen,
Here.
Jason Sampson,
Here.
Dane Nielsen,
Here.
Sandy Eric,
Here.
Luke Spence,
Here.
Barb Mittman.
Public hearing is specifications for
No comments. No comments.
Is anyone here? Contract.
You mentioned in your letter that it was.
Mike Roth is here. Any questions, ask him. Thank you.
All right. Whatever the recommendation letter said to go with the,
Yeah, I was just noticing that too. Even you guys your guys' mics aren't on either. I had some trouble with it earlier.
Okay. So the I guess, do you want me to repeat anything or?
No.
so we're going to use OnTrack for as a subcontractor for the piping.
That's what they indicated, yes.
Mhm. And what's the percentage we could do for a local difference in price? I've got to imagine we're there.
It's like 5%.
Yeah.
That's where I was gonna go with this. Contract's only 1% more, and they're local.
I might add, we get the same contractors. They're complementing each other. Even if you gave the bid to OnTrack, The other guy is gonna be the subcontractor to him, so.
So that's what's gonna be my next question, because they don't always tell us our subs. They don't tell you your subs, and on the last project, I asked you before the meeting, and I didn't have time to get a hold of you before, if that was the case here. So that's the case here again. They're
Same.
both doing the same amount of work, just who's the sub and who's the main. Okay,
Exactly.
then I'm okay with the way it is now then.
Thank you, Larry.
You're welcome.
Because Mike was supposed to answer that, though.
Sorry.
Just do the answer to that one.
I defer to Larry.
Right.
And turn your mic on.
Any other
Turn
discussion?
your mic on.
Larry, see, he's looking right at me.
Facebook can't hear. There you go. That's all I had.
That's all I had. Okay, and seeing none, council, please vote. Thanks, Mike. That is approved. Takes us to the FY 2020-2021 budget amendment number 1 public hearing. Karen, did we receive any comments?
No comments.
Is there anyone here to speak on that public hearing for the budget amendment? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing. Move to resolution number 34, 2020-2021, a resolution approving the FY 2020-2021 budget amendment number 1.
Move to approve. Second.
Jason and Dane, any discussion? Seeing none, council, please vote. Okay, so that is approved. Takes us to the next public hearing. We're just full of those tonight. Proposed development agreement with On-Track Construction LLC, including annual appropriation tax increment payments. So we'll open that public hearing. Karen, did we receive any comments on that?
No comments.
And is anyone here to speak on behalf of the on-track agreement? Seeing none, we will close that public hearing. Move to resolution number 35, 2020-2021, a resolution approving development agreement with On-Track Construction LLC, authorizing annual appropriation tax increment payments, pledging certain tax increment revenues to the payment of the agreement.
That for right now, we did receive confirmation from Matt that he's okay with the agreement. He hasn't signed it yet.
Okay.
And typically, we have signed agreements before we move forward.
Yes. And we will go ahead and let that one sit and move to D, proposed development agreement with Mid-States Material Handling and Fabrication Incorporated, including annual appropriation tax increment payments.
No comments.
Karen received no comments. Is there anyone here to speak in that public hearing for Mid-States? Seeing none, we can move into resolution number 36, 2020-2021, resolution approving development agreement with Mid-States Material Handling and Fabrication Incorporated, authorizing annual appropriation tax increment payments and pledging certain tax increment revenues to the payment of the agreement.
Move to approve.
Then we're going to table that one too after just read it all.
We're going to table that as well. We did receive confirmation that they are reviewing it. We're waiting to hear back from their attorneys.
So with these that we table, we have to reset a public hearing again,
No.
right?
We don't.
We don't? Okay.
We already had a public.
Okay,
I'll withdraw my motion.
good. So it's just the resolution will be on a next subsequent meeting agenda. Okay, so E, I'm assuming that one's good to go.
So we need to table the development agreement for that. Alan and I spoke today and we're going to discuss something that needs to be added into that agreement. For the most part, all parties have agreed to it, but we just need to make one revision, which would include the second phase of the project.
Okay, so we're doing the public hearing then.
Yep.
So we'll open the public hearing on proposed development agreement with South Glen LLC. Karen, did we receive any comments? Is there anyone here to speak in the public hearing? Okay, we will go ahead and close that public hearing, and that resolution will be tabled along with the others for the next meeting, which then moves us into the consent agenda. Any item may be removed for separate consideration. The public hearing was opened, and so that's done. It's the resolution that does.
Just the development agreement.
Okay.
Yep.
So you don't have to vote on the rest of it?
No, we're just doing, we just have to approve the public or the development agreement whenever we get those revisions done. Yep.
Looks good out there. You guys are doing good. Can't wait to see some houses. Looks good out there so far.
Yeah.
Be nice to see some roads and,
It'll be good when we get that cement.
yeah.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Luke and Barb, discussion. Seeing none, council, please vote. Okay, the consent agenda is approved. Takes us to mayor's appointments. Library board appointment of Priscilla Gammon to replace Lisa Johnson, who resigned with a term expiring June 30th, 2021. Hi, Priscilla. Sure, yeah, you can introduce yourself to the council.
My name is Priscilla Gammon, and I live out in Indian Ridge. I teach high school at East Marshall, and my husband Jared drives for UPS out of Ames, and we have a 1-year-old Valerie. So I'm excited to serve. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, God.
No, I'm glad she came. I like it. Well, we appoint a lot of people, and I've always said it's nice when they come to the meeting. I happen to know you, but that doesn't mean everyone else doesn't. So that's why I would like the appointees to come. So thanks for coming.
Well, no problem. Dinner will be a little later tonight. but it's
Yeah, okay, well. I move to approve. Need a motion?
Sorry.
Okay. Brian and Jason, any discussion? Seeing none, council, please vote. And that is approved. Thank you for serving, Priscilla.
Thank you.
And that takes us into the public forum, which is time set aside for comments from the public on topics of city business other than those listed on the agenda. No action may be taken. We do have John Hall to address you in the public forum.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. John Hall with Nevada Economic Development Council. After speaking with Jordan and the mayor last week, it was recommended that perhaps I bring this issue to you all in public forum as a way to kind of start the conversation and look to put it on a future agenda. And I brought Henry Corbin along with as we are kind of all aligned on this. So as you all are probably aware, in the late 90s, a community-wide strategic plan was put together called Vision 2020. Well, it was our intention to bring this up early in 2020 to begin the planning for rolling out a new plan, but things changed rapidly. The last major capstone piece of that project is kind of underway and in the planning process. So we thought it would be an appropriate time to bring back up the opportunity of doing another community-wide strategic plan. So the first strategic plan was actually put together by UNI's Institute for Decision Making. The NEDC has contacted them, and they're very interested in kind of helping us go through another effort with this. In fact, Drew Conrad, who runs that program, it was his first project when he started there. The Institute of Decision Making was working on the City of Nevada's community-wide strategic plan in the late 90s. So the opportunity for him to see us revamp and do another version of it is interesting to him. So what I'm looking for from you all is direction that this is a good idea. This is certainly something that the NEDC would like to see, as it will help us align our efforts around economic and community development efforts. But broadly, we know that there are a lot of groups that need to come into this, a lot of input that's going to be required from the broader community. And so really my effort tonight is to bring this to you all, ask for you guys to put this on a future agenda to consider supporting it, and then ask for you all to consider a financial ask as part of this as well. So we expect that the overall cost between hiring a consultant as well as all of the other costs that may be associated with it will come in somewhere around 15,000. We'd like to ask the city to cover half of that, and the NEDC will cover the other half. We know that there will be a number of other community groups and other different entities that will be involved. Rather than going through and trying to get every person to kick in $500 or $1,000, we'd just rather at the NEDC table cover half of the costs, ask the city to cover the other half, and get this process moving, because our community-wide strategic plan is going to expire at the end of this year, and we'd like to be ready with another visioning plan for the community for the next 20 or 30 years. So, Henry, do you have anything else to add to it?
No, I mean, pretty much just echoing.
Henry Corbin, Main Street, Nevada, and no, just echoing that statement. You know, we've referred back to the 2020 plan many times through Main Street and kind of looking at how we've gotten to where we are and our goals. And I really think this group effort across all these organizations in the city to create a future plan would really be beneficial to all.
John and Henry? Yeah, I want to thank John for his work kind of spearheading this too. It's kind of incredible for me to look at the Vision 2020 plan and actually see that that was stuck with and referenced and for over 20 years been used by the community. And it's not often that strategic plans are actually carried out like that. A lot of times they're done and it makes everybody feel good and then they collect us. So that, I think that was pretty great to see just the effect it had to transform the community. So I think it'll be definitely a big deal. We did ask Barb to be on the steering committee portion. Everyone else on the council would be asked to participate in some aspect because it'll break down. So budget committee, development committee, there'll be points that the rest of you will be asked to contribute through the process to get some of those key just strategic pieces identified. So basically there will be a smaller group that's kind of steering the ship, and then there will be committees that break down the different silos of the plan and develop within those. So that sound like a fair summary, John?
I think so.
What will you be calling this, the 2040?
We were talking about whether 2040 or 2050. I don't know if we fully decided.
At this point, 2040, 2050, it doesn't matter to do those additional 10 years one way or another. The way the plan would break down is it would really, it would lay out a broader vision for the next 20 or 30 years, but the specific actionable items would be kind of in a 10-year increment to be revisited 10 years later. So whether it's a 20 or 30-year plan, the idea is that it's revisited every 10 years to ensure that the series of actionable items are being addressed in a more manageable time frame rather than trying to guess what we're going to be able to accomplish in 15 years. So
that's similar to what happened with the 2020. It wasn't quite a 10-year review. It was more like 15 years then. We all got together and reviewed it and then did the last 5. So.
Well, I would just jump on there because I do work with a lot of rural communities, and one of the deal makers and breakers are strategic plans. So I'm here, we have to. It's really critical, so I'm all about it.
We're also really excited that one of the members of the steering committee is somebody who served on the original steering committee for the original plan too. So we're excited for the continuation of the great strategic planning that Nevada undertook many years ago.
John, do you think this 15,000 that if we're sharing the cost is that a one-time hitter, or is it something that we should be looking at to budget some monies for every year for this project? Or do you think this is...
I think there's going to be, so I think as we come through the strategic planning process, my expectation is there's going to be plenty of asks for the city to spend money on things. Okay. But I don't anticipate that the actual strategic planning process or any level of that will require funds year after year. Okay. So.
Okay. Was cost sharing done last time? Do we know?
I have no idea.
I don't think so. I think I wasn't obviously on that one, but I think the history we got, Brett, didn't the city just pay for it? I think we just, because it didn't cost very much, or if it cost anything, really, I don't recall. It's been a long time.
When you looked at, we went through the original members of the first steering committee, and there were only just a couple names that are still left local. So one of them is going to serve on this one, but I didn't ask the question of how it was funded the first time.
Yeah, and
one part of it so that first plan was really successful. So I told her it was important we have somebody that was around, so we make sure that if there were things that they learned that made it successful, we don't want to miss those.
I'm pretty sure NEDC wasn't around 20 years ago.
They were.
Oh, yeah. Were they?
Yeah, they were part of it.
Just maybe they just weren't as prominent as they are now, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, if I were going into a community to work in economic development and they didn't have a strategic plan, that would certainly be one of the things that, as an economic developer, we would push for to align the city with the broader entities throughout the community. So this perfectly aligns with how the NEDC would look to spend funds for a project like this, so. Thank you all.
Thanks.
Okay. Is there anyone else here to speak in the public forum? And seeing none, we'll close the public forum, move to old business. There's ordinance number 1013, 2020, 2021, an ordinance providing for the division of taxes levied on taxable property in the September 2020 addition to the Nevada Urban Renewal Area pursuant to section 403.19 of the Code of Iowa, third and final reading.
Move to approve ordinance number 1013.
Second.
Jason, and I think that was Dane over there. Discussion? Okay, seeing none, council, please vote. That is approved. Takes us to ordinance number 1014, 2020, 2021, an ordinance amending original ordinance designating an area of Nevada, Iowa as the Nevada Urban Revitalization Area, second reading.
Move to approve.
Second.
Luke, Sandy. Discussion. Seeing none, council, please vote. That is approved. Next is resolution number 38, 2020, 2021, a resolution approving the final plat for South Glen LLC.
Move to approve. Second.
Jason and Dane, discussion. Seeing none, council, please vote. Okay, that is approved. I feel like I should clap. That's one more step closer. So it takes us to D, approved pay request number 7 for Central Business District Infrastructure Project from Construct in the amount of $723,000, or $694,42.
Move to approve.
Second. Okay. So I think that was Luke and Barb. Any discussion on that?
We still just those two change orders and that's it. Nothing's changed.
You gotta go jinxing it, Jason. What are you?
It's shush.
And those aren't very much really. So we're looking good budget-wise.
We eliminated one insertion valve, that was $13,000.
Yeah.
That, the savings are more than all of the change orders up at this point.
Right on.
Okay. Any other discussion? Seeing none, council, please vote. Okay, that is approved. Takes us to item E, opening of public facilities.
As you'll see in the approval, we'll have a list of our public facilities that goes into a little bit of the detail on whether they're open and how the staff has been working. There's also your most accurate figures are down at the bottom of that sheet. And the sheet's been running our statistics leading up to October 7th, last Thursday. And moving forward, or from 9 to 10/7.
Well, I would just say thank you for providing this, because I think this is what I think I needed anyway to make a good decision, so I really appreciate that. And with that, I would make the motion that we open the city hall to our regular hours with the stipulation that if we get to that 8%, Luke did some work too, besides this, and if we get to that 8%, that we review it again to figure out what we're going to do next.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, and that will open up discussion.
If I review again, we
Comes back to us.
wait till the next meeting and then discuss, or?
Well,
I think there would be
there's
two options if that passed with that wording. One is the resolution I already have allows Jordan and myself to make changes quicker. So if all of a sudden it went from 6% to 25% overnight, we would have authority to confer with all of you and make a determination. Otherwise, yeah, then if it were, 8.5 or something, and we could let it wait till a meeting, then we could do that too. And that's one thing I think I definitely appreciate the metric thing. I think that makes it easier, but at the same time, it's also difficult because we get a countywide metric. And as you see from the blip here, that was probably largely driven by Iowa State University. So I think it's hard for us to have an actionable intercut metric. So I think, the school districts wrestled with that when that blip happened, how they were going to try to boil that down to something more local that was actionable. So that'll be the trouble we have with the number. And I think the other issue is, what number you use, like the 8%. He said, well, it's not really clear. So I don't think anybody has a true hard and fast number.
And when I spoke with Dr. Passion, he said there's no clear metric that makes it simple. That obviously it probably would have been found by now. But and we are pretty well economically tied to Ames, though. So I know that the students aren't coming here for their partying and all that stuff. But it's as close as we're going to get to a metric, I think. Anyway.
I kind of think that really keeping track of what's happening at the school, if anybody's not socially distancing, it's the kids. I mean, every school I've been to, football games, anything, they're not socially distancing. They try at school, but I got 2 high schoolers, it's not happening. So if there's going to be a spike, we're going to see it in the schools' numbers. I think in Nevada, as a community, I agree that we're skewed by using the Ames because, like Luke just said, they're not coming here. They're not coming here to have their deals. Evie's not having a bunch of college things going on at gatherings, which would be the closest to having a bunch of. But if we're going to have an outbreak or whatever, it's going to happen at the school. So I think that's what we should watch. I personally think for a community in Nevada, that's the number we should be watching. I think as adults, and I'm speaking for myself, I'm very careful about going to Ames and stuffing in there. That doesn't mean I haven't been all over the state playing softball for the last 2 months. Very much a lot of social distancing going on there as much as they really push you hard at them. But I think if we're going to see a big uprise in Nevada, it's going to be at the school. That's just my opinion. When you go to a football game, any Friday football game, every bleachers, every other one's taped off, and you go to the student section, and every single bleacher is shoulder to shoulder. Those kids, some wearing masks, most not. If they're going to spread it, they're going to spread it at the school. So that's just my opinion. And I think the school numbers are pretty good, if I remember looking at them. Aren't they, Jason, the last time I looked? So
very good.
But I still think we need to take into consideration everything. But I think as drives us ought to be the school numbers, really. I mean, like Luke said, I don't know if there's a really good way to do it, but
Maybe if they go to online learning, that triggers their metrics for online learning or something.
Yeah.
To trigger us to bring it back.
Yeah.
Well, and they may even be hybrid before that. If distancing makes it simpler, they've got some criteria for that in place as well. Yeah, if we can reflect that and support them as a community, I think that would be helpful too, speaking out of both sides of my mouth.
Yeah.
With my not teenager at school.
Right. Well, I mean, at football games.
Yeah. Well, we have two football games.
You see kids drinking out of each other's jugs, for God's sakes. They're supposed to all have their own water. That's why they don't have the drinking things. But it's like, oh, my water's empty, Brett. okay, take a drink of mine, and it's happening, you sit there and watch it, but that's why I say this, because school's going to drive it. And I know that Coach Kleeman, I'm just speaking for the football there, he's very, very adamant about those boys doing their best to socially distance, because he obviously doesn't want to go to hybrid, and obviously doesn't want to shut down the sports season either. So that's just my 2 cents on it.
I would say as far as having a steadfast number, as long as it's only bring it back for discussion, 8%, that's fine. But I don't want to say 8%, we're shutting things back down or anything like that. Let's talk about it again.
To counter that, Jason, the whole idea behind this is so people in town can plan ahead and know what's going to happen at a certain point.
Sure.
So if we say it's something we're going to come back and discuss at a number, and we wait for the next meeting to have that discussion, and then we have a discussion of who knows what's going to happen, whatever the council feels at that point, it makes it tough to plan ahead for anybody in town to know what's going to happen, which is the whole point of why I brought this up anyway.
Well, I don't mind talking about it at the 8%. I just don't want, 8% where all of a sudden we're back down to 10-2, or we're shutting the city hall back down again, is what I was saying.
What number would make you want to have that type of?
It would really depend. I think I'm leaning more towards what Brian was saying, and, if we're having a rash of kids out of school, way more than what we've ever had, then I think I would feel more comfortable if we were at.
Because if we only decide we're going to talk about it at a certain number, then that's no different than what we've been doing, really, just talking about it every meeting and whatever.
I think, just not to interrupt, but I am interrupting. My point was more about the review and using the policy that we already have, so we could have immediate, it's a marker, which we haven't had before, as we've talked about this. It gives us something that is substantiated by somebody in the field of CDC world. So that's what I was just give us something that is more concrete. With the idea of review, use our policy, we don't have to wait,
I'm not real comfortable with using Story County numbers for all the reasons we've talked about. I will say it's been encouraging to see they've been able to pack 13,000 people into Jack Trice with masks, and we haven't seen an uprising in cases. I think that's really encouraging. But I still don't like relying on the decisions of college-age students in Ames to dictate our policy here in Nevada necessarily. I like the idea of mirroring whatever the school is doing. I think that's a good way to go. I think you're right about that, Brian.
I'd lean the other way. Contractability among adults is worse than it is around kids, I think. So if we're going to pick a metric, I'd go with the county numbers. Everybody in town goes to Ames at least every day or every other day. We're not all going to campus, but I think we can use the school as an indicator, but I think the countywide numbers, since most of the adults in town are going outside of town every day, where the kids are going to school and back every day for the most part, I lean more towards the county numbers. I know they skew because of the college kids that one time, but
I think skew is putting it generously, looking at the 18 to 40 age group among positive cases.
Start random testing now.
I'd like to see some immediate changes that happen at a certain number, right? Whatever that number is not as important to me. We have a medical professional in the county who's recommending a number with actions to take in accordance with that. To come back and talk about it later, I don't think is doing a whole lot different than what we're already have been doing since April.
When we talk about opening, we're talking about not opening still clear till 5, but to 4 o'clock, so that the.
If you guys want to open it up, I'll open it up 8 to 5.
Okay, I thought we had special folks coming in to sanitize at 4.
at 4 or anytime after.
Okay.
It's just after 2 o'clock they come in because she also has other duties for other jobs, so that's why she comes in after 2 o'clock, because it works best with her schedule.
I just thought it would be sensible to let her do her work and let it, stay till the next morning, and not have people still coming in when she's already sanitized.
And we can also talk to her and see if she is willing to come in later after it's closed, after 5 o'clock, but she kind of just comes in whenever she's available, which happens to be typically after 4 o'clock. I can also provide these numbers for you on a weekly basis as well, even though it won't be part of our discussion on a bi-weekly, I can send you information on a weekly basis as well.
So if it passes, I think what I would interpret that as is we wouldn't need to leave this sitting here unless that metric got triggered, because there wouldn't be a reason for it. And then also too, with the wording of reviewed, that means to me, we would look at the trends and determine what it looks like, and not just if we get to 8.1 or 8.2, it wouldn't automatically trigger anything.
In the meantime, if school does something,
As I would say,
then
school, everything.
the two of you can act on our behalf without us, according to the emergency resolution, right? Yeah.
Really, I didn't really see these till we got here because they were in the desk. If you go back clear in through July, the highest peak we're pretty low, really, through July, about where we're at now, except for Labor Day weekend. The first and the second are the highest tests we've had, and you know what happened on Labor Day weekend? All those kids in Ames were out partying. They had all kinds of stuff on the news. So I disagree that Ames doesn't skew the number. It does. There's no doubt. And people do whatever they do, but I am not comfortable with letting Iowa State drive us shutting down our facilities, because they're not coming over here. It proves right here, there's multiple papers right here that go percentage, positive tests, and it's we're pretty steady where we're at now. Clear back into beginning of July, according to these charts, except for Labor Day, the days after Labor Day weekend, the 1st and the 2nd of September. That was Labor Day weekend.
That was some of the stuff we can look at locally is probably to talk to Story County Medical Center and see what they're seeing there and see what the school's seeing for absences. So I do think there are other things we can try to check into if it gets to that county.
And I don't know, and I can't quote, but having a family member that worked at Mary, she doesn't work there anymore, but all through most of the summer, I don't know that Story, and someone would have to check with Mary Greeley, but I don't know that they ever had more than 6-7 people in the hospital at a time. And a lot of those came from other counties.
They've had I believe the number, they've had a total of 11 test positive, but I do not know how many of those actually were hospitalized.
Right. I asked Dr. Passion about hospital room availability right now, and statewide it's been climbing, but in Story County he's comfortable with where it's at. It's not at a critical level at all.
I would call for the question.
So with that, I think we've talked it through, so council, please vote. So that is approved. Takes us to new business with discussion appropriate follow-up on request for credit on utility bill for 1330 H Avenue.
I have trouble denying this. Here's why. What's that?
I move to approve.
Good. I thought we were discussing, but that's okay. We'll discuss it when we're done.
Yeah. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Luke, Sandy, now discussion.
So your motion was to approve denying?
No.
What you're moving? That's because that was a recommendation, was to deny the request for credit.
I'm moving to approve the forgiving of the sewer portion of the bill that he was requesting.
Okay. Yeah.
Moving to approve the request of the Philistines.
So you're moving
Option
to,
one.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't
Clarify
know.
that. I'm sorry.
I thought he was maybe going with the recommendation that we got, so that's why I wanted to. So that's where I'm at. We've never, in my time I've been here, we've never denied this request, ever.
I think the very last time this happened, it was a child left the hose on in the backyard and we approved it.
You know, one thing is when they, and I'm still have a hard time with that, is if Al said, well, I don't know how it happened, it just was running. You're a little skeptical on if someone's trying to pull the wool over your eyes, but this one I think is pretty cut and clear that the neighbor, I mean, when his neighbor Dale went and shut the, I mean, you trust the neighbors and it happens. I mean, we've done it for everybody and all of it. So, and it seems pretty excessive to be doing it on purpose, so to speak, if the water wasn't running down, but good. I'm with Luke on this one.
Any other discussion? Being none, council, please vote. Okay, that is approved. Takes us to resolution number 39, 2020-2021, a resolution to adopt social media policy.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, Barb and Luke. Any discussion or any comments from Marlis or Jordan on that?
Does Marlis want to speak? Is she?
Probably not.
Okay, that's why I'm asking. Thank you.
She's watching from the other room.
Yeah.
Okay. And seeing none, council, please vote. And that is approved.
And I should have asked, but I just need a little clarification on one thing in there, that the part where it says, not that it's gonna make me vote different, but I just wanted to clarify that. So if there's a bunch of hate mongers on our social media, this policy pretty much gives us the right to, I guess it's our page anyway, to take down anything we need that's inappropriate, so to speak. That's what that number 3 is.
I mean, obviously Aaron's the expert here, but without a policy, we have difficult justification to delete any content.
Okay.
Luckily, we haven't had that problem to this point by some miracle. But having this and having it linked from our page where people can see it gives you more ground to remove it as long as you archive what you've done, is my understanding.
That's what I was gonna say, there's the part about the Open Records Act. If we take it down, we have to be able to.
Yeah, you're on now.
Am I on?
Yeah.
We still have to watch First Amendment rights, right? So I know this actually has come up before, and Karen always emails and says, can we delete this? What do we do with this? And so if it falls into one of these true hate speech categories, or if it's truly obscene by everybody's standards, then yeah, we can go ahead and delete it. If it's somebody's opinion that we don't like, you might find it offensive, but the rest of the world wouldn't. We still have to leave that up. So if we open the public, as a public forum, all those comment pieces, right? You could turn off comments completely. It's not a public forum, but if you have them on, it's technically a public forum. So this gives us grounds to take things down that are truly inappropriate in violation of the policy, but there's always that question.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Welcome.
Okay. And that item was already done, so that will take us over to reports.
I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any, but I have nothing else to add to the report.
And for my report, we've continued looking at website stuff, and I think that's getting closer, so hopefully you'll see something shortly regarding that. Otherwise, I'm just making sure I'm not going to miss anything, but Main Street had the opening out front and had the coffee with Jordan, and that had a really good turnout. So there were a lot of downtown businesses that came out to cut that ribbon downtown. You could tell they were really excited to get that done. So thank you, Main Street, for doing that, and for Sean for pushing things along so that it was in a position that we could do that. So that was really definitely good to get out of the way. The foundation's meeting about field house stuff, and that's continuing to progress. So you'll be, I'm sure, seeing more about that, but it's in the early silent phase. So here in a couple months, it'll go into more of the public phase, hopefully. And otherwise, I think that's all of the big items I have, unless you have any questions for me. Okay, council reports.
Runners United Nevada cut a check for over $1,000 to the American Legion and a check for over $1,000 to Story County Vietnam veterans for a memorial they're putting up in Ziering. So it's been good to see the money that we've been raising from the race series getting donated back to these local organizations. I think that speaks really well to our community. The last race of that series is on October 25th, and we definitely need some volunteers. It's a little bit tougher course volunteer-wise than a lot of our other races that we have done in town. So if any council folks want to help with that, that would certainly be appreciated. I also want to recognize Christine Heinz and Jennifer Ackerman, who have stepped up. They both have daughters in our school district with diabetes, and they wanted to do a fundraiser and do a big awareness thing. And so on November 1st, they, along with myself, are organizing a bike-a-thon out at Score Park to raise money for Camp Kahalo. One of their daughters has been there, and the other one will be there in the future, but it's gotten a lot of really positive feedback, and I think this is the type of thing that can kind of go beyond the borders of Nevada and bring in some people from out of town to see our facilities. So I think it's a really cool opportunity, and again, it speaks really well of the generosity of our community and the enthusiasm of some of the folks in it.
Any other reports?
The opioid task force met today, not a lot going on, but there is a drug take-back day on October 24th coming up. And I don't know where locations are in town. I think New Cara.
Yeah, they can always take controlled substances back to the New Cara Pharmacy and the Story County Sheriff's Department, assuming, I don't know, Sheriff's Department COVID-wise, if people can go in and out, but they do have a box in there. The pharmacy they can take it into, though. But the DEA continues those take-back days as a publicity deal to keep it front of mind for people, even though, and then not every state has what Iowa has funded, so the state funds those boxes for pharmacies. A lot of states don't do that, so that's another reason they keep doing those days.
Nice.
Any other reports? Okay, then we'll head back to staff. Sean? Thanks, Sean. Anything for Rick?
No.
This is going to go really quickly. First of all, Jim, Al, congratulations on the final plat approval. I've been working here for 11 years. I think it started shortly after that to came up with the idea. But anyway, it's been a long time coming. Along that same note, with South Glen, we've finally gotten an agreement with our Rural Utilities Association on the connection with the city water. That's been a long time awaiting. So anyway, we have an approved plan that all the staff's written off on, and Iowa Rural Water has said the same thing. And we'll start building that vault sometime in the near future to make that connection between rural water and the city. So we'll have water out there, backup water.
Is that going to be a round vault or a square vault?
What's that?
Is it going to be a round vault or a square vault? What type of vault is it going to be?
I'm still not following you. A round vault or a square vault? Oh, it will be a rectangular vault. about 6 feet by 13 feet long. So it'll be entirely in the right of way. So, okay?
How deep will that be?
6 feet, something like that. Something below the bottom of the ditch. So if they enter it and there's water in there, they'll have to pump it out.
Where's the connection of the water right now? Does it come all the way down to our property, or is it up north of that next road?
It will be located in the ditch immediately east of the northeast corner of your property. So it'll be like half block south of Shagbark.
I just saw stakes going up further north. I don't know what those-
They'll make the connection at Shagbark, bring it down, then the vault will go at that location. Then the water service subdivision will go south from there. Okay?
One other question, how much more groundbreaking does Central Iowa have to do before they're finished? Like out all the water lines in?
I don't know.
Yeah, they're up there at the vault right now. That machine in the right of way is at that vault.
Okay, so
We were out there potholing the mains today, so we'll probably be looking, I'll hook up sometime this week. All they have left is testing and then water services. About 2 weeks probably.
How soon can construct come in and start on paving?
About 2 weeks. Gonna sit down on J Avenue. No, probably about 2 weeks they'll be ready.
Okay? We're seeing progress. Good job. As I drove in this evening, Shawty made me aware that 6th Street opened up. Doesn't that look great? It was really nice to see the cars downtown again. But anyway, it came out just like the rendering showed. That's a good thing. So anyway, that project's coming along very, very well. With that, I'd like to introduce Casey Patton back here. Drop your mask so they can see all your face. It matches the towel. Okay, anyway. Casey is going to be assisting me in the Veda. The end of the year, I will be done working on a full-time basis. But I'm going to continue on a part-time, on-call basis just to work in the Veda. Because I really, really enjoy working with you and the rest of the city folks. And a lot of good things going on here, and I've really enjoyed it here. So I can't quite leave yet, so I'll be around. Anyway, Casey's going to be helping a lot and probably taking over project management and eventually transition into your city engineer. Okay? So with that, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Welcome.
What's the timeline on getting those side streets, J and K done?
J Avenue, they poured the lugs for the, 2 weeks maybe.
3 weeks? And then they'll be all buttoned up and ready for next year?
We have the alley left again.
Oh, okay.
Depends on how fast the bricking's go. There's a little less brick on the side streets, so hopefully they'll be a little more quicker.
Okay. All right, thank you.
So then we'll get the alley poured before the snow flies?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, obviously, yeah.
Don't go jinxing us, Barb.
I'm just asking, that was the question posed to me, had the S word in it.
Yes, we're hoping to be done right around the 1st of November.
Okay, I'll let them know.
Yeah, hopefully it doesn't, because then their next stop is South Glen, so we'd like to hold off until after that.
Very good. If you noticed, if you hadn't do the math on the last pay request, it was almost right on the money at 50% completed at the end of September. So the project will be more than half done, at least from a dollar standpoint. With 5 blocks of the paving done, the worst part is behind us, and that was the whole 6th Street stretch with all the services going into the buildings and all that. So next year's project may take most of the year. At least the better share of it is behind us. So, and it's been a great project so far. We owe a lot of it to Sean for keeping an eye on that and making sure everything goes smooth. So it's enjoyment to see the final product out there. So, any questions, I'd be glad to answer. Thank you.
Larry. Karen.
Just working on the budget and annual reports, urban renewal report, and annual financial report, and IMFOA conferences next week, so I'll be gone a couple days.
Council, anything for Karen? Karen? Hold on.
No, you're on.
Still nothing. And Rick, I thought I called on you, but Jordan says I forgot you, so. Do you have anything?
No, you called him.
No.
Oh, you did? Oh, sorry.
You just said it's in my report.
I just wanted to hear you talk, I guess. My apologies.
Shanna is online. Shanna, do you have anything to report?
Yeah, so the library board met with a special meeting, and we have approved a 2.5 to allow browsing by appointment. And as with you guys, it's been a long conversation continually about what to, how to determine when these phases happen. But the board did approve an 8% to move into, if it's 8% or lower, moving into the phase 2.5. So hopefully we'll be able to start that soon, but we will start slowly and work out the kinks before we open it up to times where we are doing curbside as well, because balancing both of those things will require some adjusting, and then 5% for going into phase 3. And, you know, as you guys have discussed, kids can be some of the issue for sure, and the library is a place that is open to all and open to many, and it can be difficult to make sure that all of those things are met during this challenging time. So, but we're excited to be able to do some of that, and we're still going to encourage curbside, especially for folks who are at a higher risk, or just for safety in general. So we'll keep doing that. Other than that, Travis has been working with Miss Weber's class over at the high school to get them books for their research class. And he's got some fun programs coming out in November. And then I've just been gathering information together, working on some annual report stuff for the state library. So, and I'll be meeting with Priscilla on later this week to get her oriented to the board and serving for the library.
Potential feedback, so I muted that. Okay. Council, anything for Shanna?
Shanna, this is Dane. I have a question. And I just got this letter today, so I'd encourage her to also send it along to the library board. But I did get an email from a Girl Scout mom who has been kind of frustrated with the lack of space anywhere in town to be able to have a small meeting. I think she said she has 6 troops and then 2 parents, so it's a small group of 8 people. And so I think she was kind of hoping, and I guess I'm just curious, obviously, you know, the library board is ultimately going to make that call, but I didn't know if there had been any discussion about the meeting room and any possibility of opening that even in some type of limited capacity situation. I just wanted to have, you know, if there's an answer for that, I could pass to her.
Sure. We did discuss that this evening as part of the reopening plan and everything. And so if we get to phase 3, there is language in there that the possibility of meeting rooms is a possibility. Right now, part of the issue is that our meeting room is used for quarantining and preparing the library for reopening phases. So we have a lot of the furniture in there that will not be available when we do reopen, but we're looking at ways that we can make that available for those smaller groups if we are able to get to that phase 3 section.
Anything else from council before we adjourn? Seeing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Dane and Jason. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. And we are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.